think the reality all the way through, it's like a guy riding along on a bike, two guys on a bicycle, and one guy's got a car, and he puts the gas down, which is the money and advertising, and they get blown away. That's what happened in Illinois, Michigan, every place else. You can't beat those big paid advertising campaigns, and you can't beat organization, and Rick had none of that.
He talked about beating Barack Obama, but he never mentioned Mitt Romney's name. Is there bad blood there?
Well, how could there not be bad blood? I mean, there's been a lot of name calling by the Romney people towards him, some very, very vicious commercials towards him. And at the end of the day, you know, it takes a little time for those wounds to heal.
Carl, how long is it your suggestion that might take? And does he at some point begin campaigning for Mitt Romney?
Well, if Mitt Romney asks him, I think Rick Santorum probably will. He's got 19 weeks and 6 days before the Tampa convention in order to make an appearance on the campaign trail with Mitt Romney. So there's no doubt that the Republican field that started with as many as a dozen candidates a year ago will all be getting behind the Romney campaign. They may have their misgivings and they may have some lingering resentments, but you won't see it publicly. The Republican Party knows that it has an opportunity to beat President Obama, but part of realizing that opportunity really hinges on their ability to unify solidly.
Mitt Romney's been called a Massachusetts moderate by those, including the former Fox News contributor and former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, who's still in this race, I mean, at least on paper. Does the Massachusetts moderate look for a conservative, and might Rick Santorum fit the bill?
Rick Santorum certainly would be qualified, but I don't think he'll be the choice. I think there's other, I think someone that's compatible with Romney will be the choice, and Rob Portman, others have been mentioned. That's kind of a hard marriage to make.
Rob Portman is a name you've mentioned more than once in this context.
I think there's a comfort zone. At the end of the day, it has to be a comfort zone between Romney and whoever he chooses. You know, some outstanding candidates out there, that governors and elsewhere, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to pick someone he's comfortable with.
Well, what you usually do is try to fill a gap. Wherever you have minuses, you try to put something in there, like a positive and a negative charge. Republicans, and Mitt Romney particularly, seem to have a woman problem, seem to have a Latino problem. Is there a woman, and might Marco Rubio look interesting, even though he said he won't do it? Rubio
does look interesting, and obviously he'd be a great choice, whether they win this time or even for the future, having someone like him on the national stage. I don't make the choices for Romney. He's got to have a comfort zone. I think because of the disaster of the last time we went through the process, I think they're going to be very careful on how they pick this time, because the process itself will be weighed as heavily as the end-up nominee.
Sarah Palin was a disaster?
She was a great candidate for about 3 or 4 weeks. She drove the agenda. I've never seen a vice presidential candidate carry it, but she wasn't prepared for the tough campaign that followed. And I think to a certain extent, you can't blame the loss on her. But I think she wasn't as solid a candidate as others may have wanted.
They've talked within the Republican Party and individual candidates themselves about a long and extensive vetting process, something that we know really didn't happen with Sarah Palin.
Well, because as it's become very clear, McCain wanted Joe Lieberman, which would have really been a disaster. Palin picked up that mantle and ran with it as good as anybody I've ever seen. But there's a lot of second guessing on how that she wasn't vetted.
Have Shep ask what, Carl?
I was saying, ask me a little bit about what Romney's got going on for his vetting process, Shep, because it's actually now formally beginning to get underway. In the next couple of weeks, they will appoint somebody who will head the search committee. It will be done very, very extensively. And in the context of what you and Mr. Rollins were talking about in terms of trying to avoid mistakes of past vice presidential selections, the Romney campaign has gone out of its way. They don't talk very much about this process at all, but one thing they do say over and over and over again is it will be an excruciating vetting process. They will leave no stone unturned. They will really put these candidates through a very, very thorough research. And presumably that will only fortify the process and make that short list go through a real serious scrutiny.
Moments ago, I'm going to get to the president in just a second, but just seconds ago, Newt Gingrich announced he's staying in this race. What is he doing?
It doesn't matter. He's not running a real campaign. You know, Newt needs debates. He needs.
What is he doing?
He's touring zoos, and he's going to his wife's swinging on.
But why?
I think he wants to have the forum. I think as long as he has the attention, he's going to stay there. But he's not getting any delegates. He's run fourth in the last several weeks. He has big debt. He'll roll up bigger debt. And he lost his opportunity. He had a chance after South Carolina, came back, had 2 of the worst debates, sat around for 4 days and didn't get on the air in a media state in Florida, and got buried.
The quote is, I want to give the nation until the convention to give conservatives a real choice. It's his belief that he is a real choice for conservatives, as if they've forgotten things?
I think he's deluding himself, and sometimes that happens in campaigns. But he's a guy sitting with millions of dollars in debt, no organization, and if it wasn't for the billionaire in Nevada who's been sponsoring a super PAC, there wouldn't be a campaign at all. At the end of the day, Newt had his chance, and he didn't make it.
But if he would get out, the Republicans would be able to unite around one candidate, have a kumbaya and a big hug moment.
We desperately need that, because the campaign Romney campaign now needs to go put some structure in place in addition to the vetting process and what have you. We've got to start building some of these state organizations, have to raise a tremendous sum of money, and we have to basically really get into this race without worrying about the primaries or the process ahead.
Yep.